Thank you, friends, and welcome. I'm going to jump right into the introduction because we're trying something different tonight. If you saw the email announcement that went out, there will be Patricia's prepared a brief introduction, but what we're hoping is that everyone will be able to share some of their sources of divine guidance and truth. So you're welcome to share your screen or read a poem or share your thoughts. So I have a very brief quote from John Woolman and then Patricia, and then everyone will be doing sharing, and then we'll end in silence.
And are we going to do the video, Chuck?
Yep. Yep.
Well, yep. Good.
The central paradox of
it's not showing up on the
Quakerism
screen.
is
Sorry?
Chuck? It's not,
Yeah.
we can't see it.
Okay. I 1 second. Let me stop sharing, go back to sharing, pick the other screen. How about now?
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
the belief in a light that's in each person's conscience. The central paradox of Quakerism is the belief in a light that's in each person's conscience. Early and traditional friends understood that light to be the presence of Christ, but they, from the very beginning, also believed that light was in everyone's conscience beyond the realm of Christendom. I'm Doug Gwynn, and my work is being a Friends minister. That has taken me into pastoral work among friends, as well as traveling ministry and writing among friends. What do Quakers believe is a big question.
Thank you for watching this Quaker Speak video.
Something happened, Chuck.
Of traditional friends understood that
My apologies.
beyond the realm of Christendom. I'm Doug Gwynn, and my work is being a Friends minister. That has taken me into pastoral work among friends, as well as traveling ministry and writing among friends. What do Quakers believe is a big question for a group that has no creed. For me, I see it all going back to the central paradox of our Quaker spiritual formation. Historically, we have tended to believe that the light is Christ's presence within each person, able to enlighten and teach each person, lead person into a better life. On the other hand, we believe that this same light is present universally in all people's consciences and does not depend on them having ever heard of Jesus or ever having read the Bible, or even if they have, they don't necessarily need to believe it. They may have other ways of understanding what the light is. And as long as you're centering your consciousness in the light and trying to follow it, good things will happen. So those two things are hard to hold together. And friends have tended to favor one side of the paradox or the other, the Christian sense of the light or the universal sense of the light. Out of which way you lean, many different realms of belief can generate, from very Christocentric and even very evangelical, even fundamentalist forms of Quakerism generate from the Christian side, as well as on the other side, very universalist views that connect with other world religions and aren't necessarily even theistic in orientation. I think Quakerism works best when we're trying to come closer to the center of the paradox, listening to people on the other side of the paradox, learning what we can from them, not being threatened or discounting them. A paradox is not something you ever live perfectly in the center of all the time. But the conversation across the paradox can be very fruitful. And I know that as a Christ-centered friend, from the evangelical stream of friends, I continue to learn from friends across the spectrum, and keeps me honest.
I'm here at Pendle Hill, the Quaker Retreat Center in Wallingford, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia, just to say thank you for watching this Quaker Speak video. We release a new video every Thursday. You can click on the button over here to subscribe.
Okay. Well, I have to get back to screen sharing. Thanks everyone for your patience with my klutzing around here. I think this is my screen share. So we did the Quaker Speak video, and I don't think we need to go through the core beliefs. Do you, Patricia?
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
we pretty much got there.
Okay. So my one thought I wanted to share.
Except maybe to tell us what tonight's core belief is. Okay, there we go.
So the seventh one for tonight is Quaker welcome truth from whatever source it may come. And I've learned in reading for this that source should not be limited by your thoughts of reading something. It means literally every experience of life. Mine is reading. Mine is a quote from John Woolman. To turn all we possess into the channel of universal love becomes the business of our lives. And I'm going to let that speak. I don't find any words to fit with it right now, but I'll turn it over to Patricia and I'll listen carefully for some inspiration as everyone shares their source of truth. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to welcome, is that Frankie Curry? And are these your friends from Lexington, Deborah?
Oh.
We're so glad you could join us.
Cool.
You're on mute.
We're from Louisville, Kentucky. I've been to the Goose Creek Friends Bible study several times, sharing with the people there, getting to know you guys a bit. This is my husband, Frankie Curry. And we fellowship with Louisville Friends.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I think we're Goose Creek, not Bruce Neck. So I suspect it wasn't.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And I don't think we're doing
I
Bible
know it's
something. Okay, folks. Well, you'll probably be relieved to hear I'm not going to go yadding on for great length tonight because I'm really interested in hearing what you all have to say. I just wanted to start with some thoughts that I had as I was thinking about this. Because Quakerism is not creedal. We're not trying to prove anything or seek ways to bolster a doctrine. So often in more creedal, doctrinal, religious groups, a lot of what you're reading, whether it's the scriptures or related religious writings, are there to discuss truths that have been established by authorities, and we don't have that. So we don't have to convince ourselves of anything, and that in itself is a fairly kind of a scary thing, you know, because we don't have anybody telling us what to think, telling us what to read. They're not trying to convince us. Instead, we ask questions, we ask queries, which hopefully will lead us in whichever way is open to us as individuals towards the light and towards a shared understanding of truth. We also really celebrate our diversity of views, as difficult as that can be. And Lord knows it can be very difficult. You know, I certainly have found myself in Quaker environs where I feel really kind of out of kilter with everybody else. And I've had to learn to see that as my growing edge. And the fact that we all have the opportunity to pursue truth where we find it, but to do it sincerely and with a believe in the sanctity of life, the sanctity of the world and the creation, I think is truly what we're called upon to do. For me, Quaker practice, as I understand it now, is about building an awareness of that of God in the world. It's like sharpening my antenna, and so that I can catch those moments of grace and connection wherever I may be. It could be when I'm in my garden. It could be when I'm reading something. It could be from scripture. It could be when I'm having a deep conversation with someone. It could be suddenly I'll hear a snatch of a song. And what Quaker practice does is it helps me recognize it. It helps me recognize that this is a holy moment. It's not just another moment in my life. Now, of course, this doesn't happen all the time, but nevertheless, just that kind of awareness and building that awareness and that consciousness that we are bathed in the divine all the time. We don't have to seek God. We are living within God. We are living within divine mystery all the time. And most of the time, we're not hearing it because we're distracted. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what you all have to say and to share where you have found inspiration, experiences you may have had where you have suddenly felt the hand of God, where you, what you do in your life, relationships. I mean, it's all around us. And that's an incredible cornucopia that we all have to draw on. And the interesting thing is that this was from the very beginning, even though George Fox and those folks were really rooted very deeply in the Bible, the door was open then to this kind of interaction with the world as a holy place in which we can grow in our awareness of the divine and of each other as children of God. So it's been there all along. Sometimes it's expressed in a different way, and we've sometimes argued about it. But anyway, that's all I really want to say tonight. So I'm just going to stop now and ask folks to please share how they are touched, what they look for. And, you know, there's no need to even use God language. So that's me for now. I have something to share later, but I just want to leave it there for now.
I'm struggling to find a very specific example. But what I find is, that still small voice, or it might be a nudge, or it might be a shove. What I found is when I do pay attention to that, things go well. When I'm self-righteous or convinced I'm right, or I'm going to show someone something, it typically goes south quickly. It doesn't go well. And it's that taking the moment to be able to hear that still small voice, or to feel that nudge, is what I find as the years pile on. I can slow down and kind of listen for that now. Early on, I was more of a bull in a china shop. So I've come to really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd like to say something. In my 78 years, I've learned to listen to things around me, especially animals and people. And I've always had a Quaker belief, even though I was raised Baptist, and there are some Mormon backgrounds in my family too. But we have to approach life a little different that way. I'm a veteran. I was in Vietnam and involved in the war, and I didn't believe in killing, but I fought for my country. I don't know if I killed anybody or not. I did a lot of recon fire and spent. I didn't do a full tour. I got wounded and sent back to the States. So I had to approach life a little different way. And the Quaker church that we go to, it seems like that's my path, that I want to take that direction. And as far as killing and things like that, that I don't like that. And it shouldn't be happening. We have so much of that going on now. So many people being shot in our youth. That the only thing we can do is put them in the light, and hopefully that they'll wise up and stop doing that kind of stuff. But I enjoy the Quaker church that we go to, the meeting house, and I haven't been able to go for a while, but I'm getting back to shape where I can walk. I'm very lucky. I walk with 2 canes, and the VA supplied me with carts and walkers and all that kind of stuff. So I'm able to get up and get around. I'm kind of slow, but I eventually get there. So that's Jolene and I have been married 6 years, and I met her at the YMCA where I used to go and exercise. And here comes Jolene in with her little canes walking in, and she was into music, and there was a lady there that introduced us to each other. She did folk music and I did country, and they kind of jived together for a while. But when the pandemic came through, it kind of knocked all that in the head. We still have the ability. I have neuropathy in my hands, but still play chords, and I like to share with people in nursing homes and different places like that with my music. And I think the Lord gives you a gift you should share. I think that would be sort of a Quaker way, So that's all all I have to say about that.
Thank you.
Frankie didn't speak much about his spirituality, but it's kind of on the Indian side. He's very sensitive to the animals.
Mhm.
Like, if I'm not here or something, I say, or if he's not here, I say, Frankie, I really, really missed you when you were gone. And when I'm not here, he says, I don't miss you that much, Jolene. I've got 2 dogs and a cat, and they're people too, He's very, very conscious of the animals. He always knows exactly where they are, what they're doing, and he's very sensitive to the plants. He zeroes right into what they need, and he's just got a pretty good Quaker spirituality going on here.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us share. I guess I could say something about my walk. I was raised Baptist too, and I was introduced to Jesus through my church every Sunday. Sermons and lots of testimony and all that. I actually met Jesus when I was 12 years old, and I felt that I was going to heaven, and that gave me some happiness in life. And then I got to searching by the time I was 16, and it's like I needed more. And so I found Jesus to be my Lord. I was able to find Jesus as my Lord, and that was a tremendous change in my life. It was major. And I've gotten to know people from all different backgrounds and all different denominations. And everywhere I go, I meet people who know the Lord. And it has been a wonderful journey. And now I became Mennonite there for a long time, and I went through a horrible divorce, and so that kind of canned that. And I have made my way to the Quaker meeting in Louisville here, and I've been enjoying the Quakers quite a bit, and it's influencing my spirituality, sure enough. And it's a positive change. I'm very, very happy to have found the Quakers, and I feel like I'm growing and changing for the better, and I'm blessed. It's very good to be interacting with more conservative Quakers too, though our meeting is quite liberal, and so it's nice to have that connection and to key in with that too, because a lot of who we are is more conservative, both Frankie and I. So it's very good. Thank you.
I think Quakerism is always blessed when new people find it. I didn't find Quakerism until 9 years ago, even though my Huff family were Quakers up until the Civil War. And I have a similar background, Methodist, Baptist type of thing. The thing on my mind tonight, and it's an incomplete thought, so please bear with me, but I keep thinking, and Patricia in the last session challenged us, so we were talking about how Quakers missed the era of slavery, the injustice of slavery for over 100 years. And so she asked the question, what are we missing that, 300 years from now, someone's going to look around and say, boy, they really missed it for over 100 years. They didn't realize. And the thread I'm following is that in many introductions to the concept of dialogue and speaking truth, we tend to fall into the area of quote unquote knowledge, and we tend to kind of celebrate, I'm not good with history, but the Renaissance period of knowledge of everything, books and proofs of scientific proof. And I think one thing that I miss in searching is there are truths for which there is no proof. There are truths for which we know in our heart, in our soul, that this is true. And whatever quote you might have, whatever you may point to, is not necessary to substantiate it. I think we live these truths kind of inferred as a product of who we are. And I think it's one of the strengths that Quakerism has, the umbrella to welcome everyone that comes open and respectful and wanting to be part, to belong to a group of people pursuing the truth. So I'm going to read a very short 6-line poem that found me this morning, and I totally surprised, but it seems to fit. It's by Rainer Maria Rilke. You must give birth to your images. They are the future waiting to be born. Fear not the strangeness you feel. The future must enter you long before it happens. Just wait for the birth, for the hour of new clarity. So that's me. I'm looking for the hour of new clarity.
I wasn't sure. I heard it all that well. I wonder, like, could you read it again, please? And
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was trying to get it printed so I can share it on the screen, but I'll read it slowly, and I'll definitely happy to do that. You must give birth to your images. They are the future waiting to be born. Fear not the strangeness you feel. The future must enter you long before it happens. Just wait for the birth, for the hour of new clarity. If you put your email in the comments, I'll send you a photograph of it.
Thanks.
Sure. And I said comments, but I meant chat.
With that in mind, Chuck, 10 years ago at the church I was attending, our Sunday school teacher, he pulled out a book by Philip Gulley, which was the first Quaker writer I had really heard anything about. And I think the theme of that was that I got from that it's okay if we keep searching for clarity. Because, I was always taught this is what it is. You have to accept it. Don't question it. You're not going to grow in it. This is just it. It fits in this box. And with that you read, I think that's what opened me to Quakerism, is you're constantly looking for clarity. And you don't have to find it. It changes every day. So thank you.
Brilliant. I like that.
I have a poem I would like to share. It's a full page, and I will share it on the screen. But I had looked at it today preparing for this, And then I thought, no, I'd rather share, personal experience after we started talking. And then I thought, well, no, but this actually is sort of central to my religious journey in the last 3 decades or so. So I was quite fervently religious, Protestant Christian as a child, and as I grew up, my reason interfered with my belief in a whole bunch of different ways. I mean, I no longer believed in, some of the Christian stories that I had learned as a child. That was part of it, and there was some hypocrisy in Christianity that I fear hasn't diminished terribly, that bothered me a lot. And then I would think, well, if there's a God, God is incomprehensible to my poor little human brain anyway. So maybe I won't think about it a lot. And then I think if I want so much to believe in God, then if I decide to believe in God, it will just be, wish fulfillment for me. So my brain did all kinds of tricks, and it still does. It's not over. But okay, so this brings me to the poem, and this brings me to the way in which being open to truth is more than just wrestling with ideas in your head. And I guess I will just leave it at that and read this. It's actually a piece of a poem by Denise Levertov, who was, among other things, a religious poet. The tree of knowledge was the tree of reason.
The tree of knowledge was the tree of reason. That's why the taste of it drove us from Eden. That fruit was meant to be tried and milled to a fine powder for use a pinch at a time, a condiment. Got it.
Jolene, you need to mute, sweetie.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, Jolene was reading it so beautifully. I love that. The fruit was meant to be dried and milled to a fine powder for use a pinch at a time. God had probably planned to tell us later about this new pleasure. We stuffed our mouths full of it, gorged on but and if and how, and again but, knowing no better. It's toxic in large quantities. Fumes swirled in our heads and around us to form a dense cloud that hardened to steel, a wall between us and God, who was paradise. Not that God is unreasonable, but reason in such excess was tyranny and locked us into its own limits, a polished cell reflecting our own faces. God lives on the other side of that mirror, but through the slit where the barrier doesn't quite touch ground, manages still to squeeze in as filtered light, splinters of fire, a strain of music heard then lost, then heard again.
Can you leave that up for a minute?
Sure.
Catherine, so we can read. That's wonderful. I want to read it through again.
The first hand specialist I saw only offered surgery, so I went to a second hand specialist who also offered non-surgical options, which felt more right for me. So what I'd say to other people with Dupuytren's contracture is this: don't wait. Find a hand specialist trained in non-surgical options today.
Oh, I love the way in her poem she doesn't discount the important part that reason plays in our lives and our spiritual lives as well as the rest of them. But the way in which it locks us in, and maybe I'm so moved by it because it's just so true for me. But
well, look no further. SafeStep's best offer just got better. Now, when you
Somebody is not muted who has something playing in the background. Okay, that's better. Thank you.
oh, and I just wanted to add one thing too, which is that that image of the steel barrier between us and God, I think is also a barrier we place between us and other people whose ideas we don't necessarily share. So, back to the Quaker belief for this month, the apprehension of truth from whatever source it comes.
Catherine, could you read the first 2 lines again, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to. So, okay, the first 2 lines, first 2.5. The tree of knowledge was the tree of reason. That's why the taste of it drove us from Eden.
So it's the tree of knowledge is in the past tense.
Yeah, well, I guess just because it's referring to the story in Genesis.
Yeah. Okay.
We can share what we'll do. We'll collect these poems afterwards and send them as emails to everybody so they can have them to read as well.
I'm speaking too much. I just want it. The image of the bits of light coming through the bottom under the barrier reminds me of when I was first part of Goose Creek Meeting, was back when the major poet Henry Taylor was still living in Virginia and was a member of Goose Creek Meeting, and he stood one day and he pointed. There was a door to the library straight across from where he was, and he pointed at it, and there was a keyhole in it. And there was just a little bit of sunlight from that room and from the window in that room shining through the keyhole. And he said, well, that light I've been looking at all morning shining through the keyhole, that's not like the whole light of God, but it's part of the light of God.
Yes, welcome, Jim. We're glad that you joined us. Folks are sharing just where they have found the divine speaking to them in a very, we're thinking expansively on the subject. So just to bring you up to speed here. Nancy, you're muted.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I've been thinking a lot about light, and my thoughts first started with the quote that's in Latin across Sather Gate, which is the entrance to the south part of the campus at the University of California, where Mac and I went to school. And the translation of that is, let there be light. And how I think in that setting, what I interpreted that to mean was knowledge, that knowledge brings light to us, and light and extends our understanding of many things, not just our physical environment, but who we are and who other people are. And then I thought about the Quaker saying, which refers to prayer, I'll hold you in the light. And what that means, I'm sure it means a multifaceted collection of meanings to all of us. And then, because I live with a scientist, I was thinking about the scientific aspect of light and how when we see a rainbow, we think of the rainbow is a sign of hope, a sign of sunshine and happiness coming after rain or after a storm, be it psychological or physical. And in the rainbow, though, we only see the colors of the prism that our atmosphere allows us to see. So the very environment that we live in limits the colors that we see. And we know through science that there are many colors in the infrared, in the different areas of the spectrum that we don't see. So my idea about divine and divine light got larger and larger. It included knowledge, it included prayer, it included things I see and things I cannot see. And I think those things that we cannot see many times in life because of our limited perceptions at any given moment based on many different things are often the things that most affect us. And so this symbol of light has become a very vast concept for me. It's full of goodness, it's full of hidden things, it's full of knowledge, it's full of many things. I think it's a beautiful symbol to hold you in the light.
One of the interesting things, thank you, Nancy, about Quakers, and I think it's almost a distinctive, is Quakers have never been anti-science. You know, there, of course, you can always find somebody who's a fundamentalist who possibly is, but nevertheless, as a group, Quakers have never been anti-science. And at one time in the 18th century, an unusual number of Quakers were members of the Royal Society in Britain, which was the sort of society where scientists met and shared ideas. And of course, in this country, you know, John Bartram and what was his father or his son's name, Catherine, I can't remember, but they were great botanists. And then I read recently that when Darwin wrote the theory of evolution, Quakers were amongst the first groups to accept it. By the 1880s, most Quakers accepted the theory of evolution, and which is remarkable, actually. And so looking for divine inspiration is seen in knowledge and is seen in science, and Quakers have not been threatened by it, once again, because they're not trying to prove something specific. So, you know, that was extraordinary to me, that there's this openness to knowledge as it comes. You know, and of course, you find quite often in most Quaker meetings, you will find a certain number of scientists. And they're not being asked to put aside what they have learned in science because it conflicts with a belief that our religious group holds. And that to me is again a way in which we are being touched by God is through the great discoveries that are opening up to us, the truths that are opening up to us through science.
I'd just like to add something to that, Patricia. And that is that the scientific method has a set number of steps that you go through. And whether you can prove something to be true. And that method has its limitations based on how we know how to prove something according to that method. But there are many things that are true that can't be proven by that method yet. And many people searching to analyze and figure out how can we prove this? How can we prove that? How can you prove the synchronicity that happens in your life as intentional? But it always is. And the truth of that unfolds as your life continues. And I love this part of my life because I'm seeing how things that happened to me when I was young made things happen to me when I was older, and these things were gifts. And I see them in a much larger perspective now. And I keep saying I want to live to be 100 because this is such a great adventure right now of finding all these beautiful threads and connections that are there in each of our lives. They don't happen just by accident. I'm finding it's intentional by something far bigger than us. That's what I'm finding. And I think it's a beautiful sense that in some strange ways we are really cared for. We are very cared for. Now, my dad, not all the things were good at the times they happened, but they became beautiful pieces of fruit in my life.
I'd like to add a couple of non-scientific thoughts and experiences. Early on, just struck a bell with me that I hadn't realized before, and that is you mentioned that music can be a source of inspiration. And I realized that music was an important part of my early life. My dad died when I was fairly young, but he had a pile of folk songs that he liked to play and play his ukulele. And after he died, I picked up singing the folk songs and playing the ukulele. I had a book of folk songs collected by Carl Sandburg. It's called The American Zonk Bag. And I loved the music that was in that. And I think it helped me to fill a hole where my dad was missing by singing these songs. And I'd go out and sit on the front porch on the railing and sing them. There wasn't anybody there, anybody singing with me. I just sang, and I thought, well, the neighborhood is the audience for my music, or was at that time. And then as I got older, I took up the flute and the piccolo and played them in the junior high school and high school band and then later on in the marching band at college. But in that case, in the high school band, we played one piece that I wasn't familiar with, but I just instantly loved it and listened to it many times. Well, it turned out to be one of Beethoven's symphonies, but I didn't know what it was at the time. So enough. Just to me, these were examples that were things that were very important to me at the time they happened in my life, but examples of how music can be a source of healing.
Did you say the American Song Bag?
That's right.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Jolene and I are into music. We both had musical backgrounds. My dad was real inspiration to mine. He learned to play guitar at the same time I did. We took lessons from a neighbor. He would play rhythm and I would do the lead. We played mostly at church picnics, and for friends and on the porch, a lot of porch stuff. I've got some neuropathy in my hands now, but I can still play a French harp and do a few chords. But my band one time played at a church on Bardstown Road here in Louisville, Kentucky, out front of the church. It was an interdenominational church. And there were quite a few people that got saved that day. They went in, had a meal, and found the Lord, So music is a healer. I agree with you on that, and it's been a big part of my life. And I've acquired a few instruments through the years. And, I would have to get a bank loan to put strings on all of them, but I didn't have a violin, so I'm with a carver group that we do a lot of carving and building of different things. And there was a minister in there that made violins, and he had his first violin he made a temp on, just the pieces, and he had to go into the hospital for an operation, and he just gave me the parts. He said, "Here, put it together," So I put it together, and he helped me with it when he come back out. We put the varnish on it and got it set up, and I'm past the squeaky stage right now. It's a hard instrument to learn. You have to put a lot of yourself into it, But building of the violin is very unusual. You got to use egg white, and the glue that puts those together has to stay where you can take it apart. You can take like a hair dryer, and you can peel that apart and redo them. So I have a nice violin, and I had a lot to do with putting it together. I didn't actually build the parts to it, but he was real impressed that I got it together like this. But it's been very very healer, and actually I think it's kind of healing me right now. Yeah. So that's I'm glad to meet you. You're into music there, and it's been a big part of my life. My mom had a picture of me when I was born, and looked like I'm holding a guitar, the way I held my hand. So I've been into it for a long time, and I think our Quaker religion a lot of times don't have music. There's a lot of quietness, but there are some Quaker songs out there. I'm very sure of that. You know, it's could be a big part of the light and the healing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't have anything prepared for tonight, but as we were talking, Dave and I, there's a singer-songwriter that Dave and I really both find a lot of spiritual inspiration from. His name is Bob Sima, and he's also a friend of ours. And I was wondering if you would like to hear a song that sort of relates to the theme that we're talking about tonight, about reaching across. So I can share the screen. Unfortunately, there is no video to go with this one, but you can at least hear it. So, okay.
Great.
All right.
Home should be about you.
Have to have that first.
We believe that objects can be really powerful.
Sometimes I cry for a lonely world that's living in a great divide. Sometimes these tears
Can you hear okay?
make me wanna wrap myself up and disappear, but I won't be away too long, 'cause my sadness turns to gladness when I sing this song. If your hand was in mine, when I make you my sister, to make you my friend, I make you my brother. If your hand was in mine, want to make everything better. Isn't it amazing how every hand fits right in the other? Sometimes I fear when the jackals outside are the only voices I hear, but the call of the love in my heart is stronger, and a feeling I want to reach out, won't hold back any longer. The world needed just one more lover. Couldn't it be me? Couldn't it be you? If the world needed just one more lover, couldn't it be me? Couldn't it be you? If your hand was in mine, would it make you my sister? Make you my friend, I'll make you my brother. If your hand was in mine, wouldn't it make everything better? Isn't it amazing how every hand fits right in the other? If your hand was in mine, you'd feel me inside, deep inside, deep inside. Well, it would bring love, and it would bring touch, and it would bring sight to a world gone blind. If your hand was in mine, you couldn't judge and run from me. Point your finger and be done with me. Yank my chain, pull the rug from under me. Hate me, punch me, or hold a gun to me. Hurt me, desert me, resent me, forget me, laugh at me, attack me with apathy. You can only feel me, be real with me, dissolve the fear with me, rise on up to a higher energy. You can't be above me, below me. When you sit down beside me, hold me and know me. Take my hand, my sister, my brother, my friend, my lover. There are no others here. There are no others here. If your hand was in mine, you couldn't judge and run from me. Point your finger and be done with me. Yank my chain, pull the rug from under me. Hate me, punch me, or hold a gun for me. Hurt me, desert me, resent me, forget me, laugh at me, attack me with apathy. You could only feel me, be real with me, dissolve the fear with me, rise on up until a higher energy. You can't be above me, below me. When you sit down beside me, hold me and know me. Take my hand, my sister, my brother, my friend, my lover. you my brother. If your hand was in mine, would it make everything better? Isn't it amazing how every hand fits right in the other? Fits right in the other. 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 Fits right in the
Thank you, Lisa.
Yes. You're welcome.
Uh,
I'm always happy to introduce people to Bob.
I love that music. I don't know him. I did find him on Spotify and marked it, but I couldn't find that song. I'll find it though.
Yeah, all of his music is on Spotify now, so you'll find it.
Good.
Yeah.
That was a great choice.
Apologize for my husband's cameo appearance. I wasn't muted and he thought we were done because he heard the music busting in here.
So do you know him because he lives somewhere in this part of the country or
Well,
some-
we actually met him through his wife. His wife was friends with us first, and she went to Unity of Fairfax with us when we were all there. And he did used to live in the area in Annapolis, but they live in Florida now. But they were just up in this area for a concert on Friday, so he was on my mind. Yeah, wonderful. I highly recommend. I mean, the music is all got that great spiritual message like that. Yeah.
They think I'm crazy over here, but I put my headphones on and play that kind of music, and that's when I'm cooking. I just love to get in the kitchen and, it's all simple food, but something about the music just makes it taste better.
There is a Quaker songstress called Carrie Newcomer who has beautiful music.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's another Paulette Meyer who takes old Quaker sayings and turns them into plain song. And I'm trying to remember how to spell it. It's Meier, Meyer. Anyway, I can look that up, but it's really fascinating because she started doing it because she wanted to learn some of these old Quaker sayings by heart, and she's a singer, and so she turned them into plain song. And it's really cool what she's done.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love Carrie Newcomer too. I love Holy as a Day is Spent, one of my favorites. Yeah.
We're spoiled. She belongs to Bloomington Friends, so every once in a while she'll just pop in and sing for us, and it's just amazing.
Well, Fooey, you guys in Indiana, you also have Philip Gully over there. I mean, really, what's growing out there in those cornfields?
Carolyn, we can't hear you, or at least I can't hear you. Can anyone else?
I can't hear. Yeah.
Can hear you.
Something crazy.
You're still muted.
Yeah. But
You're
it's not
muted.
on.
You are muted.
Mm-hmm. You gotta hit your mute button.
Try unmuting again, Carolyn. She is.
Maybe you need to turn your volume up.
Yeah, maybe that's it. You can hit the chat button and write it.
Can you share the screen and put it?
Carolyn, in the left-hand lower corner of your screen, do you have a little microphone that says mute, unmute?
So here's the trick.
Yeah.
In that icon that Nancy pointed out, there's a caret on the top right-hand corner. It's just a little up arrow. If you put your cursor over that and hit it, it has an option menu and it gives you the option to test your speaker and microphone. So what I have found is if the computer has multiple options, it'll pick the wrong one. If you step through that test the microphone, it'll tell you when you've gotten the right one.
I'm sorry, what was this? Something about a computer would pick the wrong one?
Oh,
Am I muted now?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
We can hear you now.
yay.
My flashes of connection with my spiritual being usually comes like at the end of Catherine's poem, in slivers, in flashes, and little moments. And it may be an encounter with a friend, or it may be just seeing one of my little monarch caterpillars, or walking into that meeting house is very spiritual for me. And I envision these various things when I really feel as if I need connection with my spiritual life. But I just find the being in the meeting house and being among friends very gives me space to be spiritual, and having the silence and not long sermons, not long, diatribes. And I just think having a kernel of a message, that really is very spiritual for me. And I also consider being on a journey, being a seeker, leaves me open to find these moments where spirituality is really making me stronger, more open.
Could you flash up the poem one more time that I could see it?
Which poem?
Catherine's.
Oh, Catherine. Oh.
Okay, thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, I have the song inspired me to remember something that happened Sunday at the barbecue, and I actually have 4 new truths from one of our friends at Goose Creek, and I'll tell you the story, but I'll guarantee you haven't heard these 4 new truths before. And the conversation had to do with t-shirts, just to prepare you for what emblem we put on a t-shirt. Quakers listening deeply since 1650. No, listening deeply since 1650, yeah. Peace, love, and light, Quakers, long-haired hippies since the 1650s. Stay calm and listen on. fight might with light.
It's good. All of those are good.
So Nat Epling and I are working on a t-shirt project for Goose Creek, because we liked the one that John wore on Sunday, and those are his inspirations. He shared them with me in an email just 4 o'clock this afternoon. But I thought there's a lot of truth in those t-shirt sayings.
Or what about Quakers, the other Q?
You said that one before. I'm gonna write that down. I remember.
Could you read those again, please?
Oh, sure. Oh, you want me to email them to you?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, because I sent you the picture of the Rilke quote. So I've got your email now, so I should be able to forward them to you.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
I spoke to a friend one time at the carving. He said, "You're one of those Shakers, aren't you?" And I said, "No, I'm a Quaker." So I'm a Quaker, not a Shaker, you know. So, I said,
I remember he said, "We like checks."
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when I came to Quakerism almost 30 years ago, I had very specific ideas of what religion was, and I had come from a variety of variations of Protestant religion. I'd been born again. I'd done all of that stuff, and I didn't realize how much my mind was in a box about it. And I'm a great reader, so I read a lot of stuff, and I still read a lot of stuff, and that's just the way I am. But the one thing that Quakerism has done for me is that it's really bust open the way I look at the world, and but also what is religious reading. Recently, a few months ago, I was listening to an interview with Krista Tippett with Eugene Peterson, who was the great. He was a theologian and preacher and writer of books, and it was an absolutely wonderful interview. And in the interview, he revealed that he and his wife of an evening would read to each other, would read spiritual books to each other. And Krista asked him what those books were, and she was clearly expecting him to come up with the kinds of books that you would find on the shelf, you know, in a library of, you know, Christianity or spirituality or religion. And he said, well, Charles Dickens, Wallace Stegner, and he began coming up with titles of great literature. And it was like, I think, Tricia, you're the most obtuse person in the world, because it was like a light went on. It was like, of course, this is what great literature is. It is spiritual reading. It is opening the door to great mystery and understanding. And since then, I've kind of looked upon what I read in a very different way if it's not in the box of religion or spirituality or whatever. And I think that's really what is the dividing line between, you know, a beach read, and you can get spiritual stuff from a beach read too, but something that really turns your mind inside out. It gives you an understanding of humanity and life and the complexities of our situation and all of that stuff. So, I mean, that's just one thing I just wanted to mention, because I'm actually going to share a reading, which is a religious reading, which actually comes from, I've also had a great deal of inspiration over the years from Quaker mystics, contemplatives like Thomas Merton in particular. I'm a huge fan of Thomas Merton. He's kind of really expanded my mind and helped me a lot with my Quaker practice because of his understanding of contemplation. And then there are more recent ones. Richard Rohr, I love reading Richard Rohr, same thing. It's the contemplative tradition that comes out of Catholicism. So I would like to share just the very last some of you maybe know Thomas Merton's New Seeds of Contemplation, which is one of his best known works. And he wrote this in the 1950s. And some of it's very Catholic, some of it is just a little bit too much in that direction for me, but a lot of it is just really, really profound. And this is the very last section of the very last contemplation that he writes about in this book, that he includes in this book, from the general dance. Now, Thomas Merton wrote in the 1950s, so his language is very patriarchal and male dominated. So I've taken the liberty, I'm sure Thomas wouldn't mind, of fixing it a little bit, fixing it up a bit, so because I don't want it to be a barrier to people's appreciation of this last piece that he wrote. And I find this just wonderful and really encapsulates very much where Quakerism has taken me in terms of expanding my mind as to what is inspiration, what is God, how is God touching me, how am I being reached. So without much further ado, I shall share this with you. Okay. Okay. What is serious to humanity is often very trivial in the sight of God. What in God might appear to us as play is perhaps what the divine takes most seriously. At any rate, God plays and diverts herself in the garden of her creation. And if we would let go of our own obsession with what we think is the meaning of it all, we might be able to hear the call and follow the divine presence in the mysterious cosmic dance. We do not have to go very far to catch echoes of that game and of that dancing. When we are alone on a starlit night, when by chance we see the migrating birds in autumn descending on a grove of junipers to rest and eat, when we see children in a moment when they are really children, when we know love in our own hearts, or when, like the Japanese poet Basho, we hear an old frog land in a quiet pond with a solitary splash. At such times, the awakening, the turning inside out of all our values, the newness, the emptiness, and the purity of vision that make themselves evident, provide a glimpse of the cosmic dance. For the world and time are the dance of divine mystery and emptiness. The silence of the spheres is the music of a wedding feast. The more we persist in misunderstanding the phenomena of life, the more we analyze them into strange finalities and complex purposes of our own, the more we involve ourselves in sadness, absurdity, and despair. But it does not matter much, because no despair of ours can alter the reality of things or stain the joy of the cosmic dance which is always there. Indeed, we are in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of us, for it beats in our very blood, whether we want it to or not.
Thank you. Wow.
And I'm happy to email this to folks with
Yes,
anything, all the other stuff people have shared.
Yes. Thank you.
Can I take it down?
Yes, please send me a copy of that.
I will. I will.
Thank you very much, Patricia.
Shouldn't that be a capital H in herself?
That was so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I like to think of us as each of us here are part of an amazing quilt of humanity. and we're on the same quilt, we're on the same space, and we have different colors and different designs, and they all matter. They all matter.
Any closing thoughts from anyone?
Yeah, I'm really glad I tuned in late. I don't seem to think I was on the mail list correctly, or I got the wrong numbers. But I thought tonight, we all need inspiration, and we find it in different ways. And I've been inspired by a lot of the sharings tonight. One of the people that's been inspiring to me has been Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He's written something that I really like. He was telling his ordinands, the daily silent meditation upon the Word of God, with which I am concerned, even if it is only for a few minutes, must be for me the crystallization of everything that brings order into my life, both inwardly and outwardly. In these days, when our old rules of life have had to be discarded, there is great danger of finding our inner order endangered by the rush of events. Meditation gives our life a kind of stability, maintaining a link with our earlier life, from baptism to confirmation and ordination, preserving us in the saving fellowship of our community, our brothers and sisters, and our spiritual home.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
If you can get me the quote from Bonhoeffer, I'll include it when we email everybody the poems.
Okay.
If you can just give me a reference somewhere to find it.
Sure.
Or just whatever's easy.
That was on his The Way to Freedom, page
Oh, okay.
121.
Say the page again.
The Way to Freedom.
Yep.
Page 121.
Thank you.
I footnote all my quotes.
Okay.
I don't know why. I'm just compulsive.
Yeah. Good habits. Any other leadings to share? Well, may I suggest we close in silence and in gratitude to Patricia for all her wonderful work for 7 solid months of, and we got one more to go. We got
two more to go.
Yeah, 2 more to go.
Yeah.
So please hold in the light all those folks who are in peril tonight, and hold in the light all those souls that are searching for the truth. And thank you, each and every one, for being here. It was awesome.
You, Chuck.